Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I have the fine people here of A Night's War. We have Matt Ninaber, writer and director. We have stars Jeremy Ninaber and Kristen Kaster. So the movie comes out February 7th in select theaters, and then February 11th and video on demand. So people not aware yet, could you give them an idea of what A Night's War is about?
Night's War is about Bodhi going to hell with the Chosen One and fighting a bunch of demons and witches and, coming back.
There you go. Before you guys joined us, I was telling Kristen I grew up playing a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and so this is my kind of movie.
Love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Likewise.
I love sword and sorcery movies too. There was a long time where they were very campy. That's really not my favorite. I know some people like them, but I like a more adult sword and sorcery movie. Like I grew up with like Conan the Barbarian.
Yes, you did.
So this is my kind of thing. And so what were like the inspirations for you guys?
You named them. We both grew up on Arnold Schwarzenegger with Conan Barbarian,
Dragonheart, Excalibur, Red Sonja.
Yeah, 13th Warrior is more recent, not really recent, but is another one that there's a little references in this.
And then obviously, you got Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, but lots of
people. Those little things that people.
I don't know if you heard of them.
Kristen, you yourself, are you into this genre?
I am a little bit younger than those two.
How much younger?
Don't say anything.
What are you saying?
So, I don't have as much like admiration, I think, to those movies as they do. But I do love this genre, like medieval fantasy, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, love both of those. So yeah, I was so excited to be a part of this.
Yeah. So how did you get involved, Kristen? I know you've worked together on other things before.
Yeah. So we worked together on another project called Death Valley. And, then we just had like stayed in touch since then because we all became quite good friends afterwards. And then, Matt and Jeremy mentioned they were writing a new script and wanted to know if I wanted to take a look at it, read through it, and like see if I would be up for playing Avalon. And immediately I was like, yes, please. Sign me up 100%. I'm in. You don't have to ask me twice. And it's probably a good thing, I didn't ask that many more questions because as you can see in the film, we were in some pretty brutal locations in terms of like weather and that sort of thing. And just, a lot of physical and mental toll it took, but it was amazing.
Yeah. So, Matt, usually when I have independent filmmakers on, they say like, we wrote a story around stuff we have, like, we live by like a shed or something. But it seems like the opposite here, because there's a lot of stuff going on here. So, when you're writing it, just all the visuals and stuff, was there a part like maybe this is too big? I don't know if we're going to be able to pull this off.
I felt that the whole time.
Yeah.
More than once felt that the whole time. Like we don't have castles in Canada. We had trees and wilderness. That's all I knew we had, but everything else was not really in our wheelhouse. And that's why we were so intimidated by this because yeah, you're right. Usually you have a car, you have a house. And for us, what we knew that we had is the ability to create things with foam. And with Death Valley, we did learn a lot about how to build sets and you can make anything with foam. And so the challenge we had to ourselves was, can we build a medieval world and build it basically in our backyard? And that's what we did. Our neighbors think we're crazy. I still have a castle in my backyard. And it looks cool from one angle. The other angle is just pink foam. And people are like, what is that? But it's, it was a huge undertaking. And I think the whole time there was a couple nights I was just like, what have I said yes to? Like once you start, you can't stop. And it was a huge undertaking.
Mm-hmm.
Just how long just to make that? Besides, actually when you start filming and then editing, which I assume also took a long time.
Yeah, so we filmed this and we started filming and edited and finished it all in a year. We staggered our shoots. So basically we'd film on a weekend, and then Monday to Friday, we would get the set ready for the next thing. And then whatever set was ready, we'd film again that weekend. And we kind of followed that. We did 40 days of filming. And a lot of times our schedule was dictated by what set was ready. We had one time the witches scene we had to cancel 3 times because I think there was a hurricane, and the water, it just flooded the castle out, and it was up to our knees. Like people would step and just sink down. So we're bringing straw into those scenes. It's just so that we can like kind of dry up the set and
write a quicksand scene and put it
I was like, how do we use this? And we spent so much time just redirecting water so we could film things, and just it's absolutely nonsense, the work that you have to put in that just does not make sense.
So I assume the foam gets actually really heavy if it gets a lot of water on it.
Well, it's coated in epoxy and paint, so it actually become waterproof. So it's quite resilient.
Yeah. Or else it'd probably just been ruined, I suppose.
It's, like I said, there's still a castle in my backyard, so it's still working. So
save it for upcoming sequels. So
exactly.
Basically.
Jeremy, did you have any experience with sword fighting?
I mean, as kids growing up, we farted around our backyard and stuff like that. We did a little bit of training.
With swords.
But we got practice swords when we were younger, and so we've always been fond of that. And that was one of the things we knew someday we wanted to make a medieval movie. And I think for this film, we spent about 6 months of doing the choreography for the sword fights. And that was funny. We actually had the sword fighting started almost before the script was completely done. So we just knew that it was going to be a big component of the movie, and we had to make sure that looked good.
Had you directed a lot of action before, Matt?
I would say, like we did, our first movie together was Extraction Day, which was all action, and then Death Valley, action again. And I think even Transference has a fight scene. I really enjoy filming action scenes. I think it's like probably one of my favorite things to do. But
and Kristen, did you fight in the backyard with swords or anything?
I think I definitely had my fair share of like playing around with swords, or I not necessarily swords, but I remember my dad having those like big long paint poles in the basement, and my sisters and I would go down there, a friend of mine, and I would go down. We would just sword fight, or I would just practice by myself, pretending I'm fighting off somebody or some creature or monster. So always kind of creating those little movies in your head when you're a kid.
Yeah. So, I mentioned that I'm not a big fan of like the real campy sword and sorcery stuff. So when you're making this though, and you want to avoid that because it's a very somber movie. So, you've got dialogue, you get played straight. And also like Kristen, when you're like acting, you're shooting spells, like just the thought process, like we want to make this, so it doesn't look like, oh, we're being silly here.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know. It's kind of tricky. Like you just I think I've learned over the years of acting, I think you just have to commit and not necessarily think about it too much, because then I think when you're thinking about it too much, or you're half in, half out, that's when it starts to look silly, or that's when it's, maybe looks a little bit like inauthentic. And so I think just kind of committing to it. And like just being present with the story.
And with how much,
I would say quick, not just because you're all here, I never felt that way. I felt like, this, I was in it the whole way. So.
That's good.
And one thing is both of them were wearing so much armor and in such cold circumstances that there was nothing funny about it. Both Kristen and Jeremy were very miserable filming this, not like just in a miserable situation. So it's very easy to just, embrace that, redirect it, put it into their characters. So they went through hell literally to make this movie, which is,
your basic desire to survive kind of like is forefront of mind, just trying to stay warm.
How heavy are the armor?
Oh, the set I wore was like close to 100 pounds. And Kristen's, how much was yours?
I think it was like almost 50 pounds.
Yeah, but it starts to wear on you. When we first did the dressing up for this movie, I was probably 30, maybe 40 minutes in the gear. And I turned to Matt and I said, I don't know if I could go a full day in this. It's just cramping my back. My back was just spazzing up under it. I was like, I don't know if this is possible. And so we actually then started looking at some foam options because I didn't think I could do it. And then luckily Matt was able to convince me. He's like, no, the foam looks bad.
I've seen it in too many movies that are coming out now where people are walking around with foam outfits. You can see how they're walking. You can see in their performance. Like, you guys aren't wearing real armor, and it shows. It really does show. And I think for us, our goal was, how can we make this as authentic as possible? Real sets, real location, not on a soundstage. And yeah, I think that's part of what makes it not feel campy, is that people are really struggling, they're really sweating, they're really getting dirty, they're fighting for their lives, trying to survive the cold to stay warm. And there's times that we're out in the wilderness that both Kristen and Jeremy are starting like mini fires off the set just to stay warm, because they're like, "Yo, I'm so cold, man." And
we're just like, we need a campfire in this scene, I think.
Matt, since you have experience, being people in great big suits and stuff, does that help you at directing this? Because you can give advice for your fellow actors in big makeup or big prosthetic.
Yeah, it's I think you kind of collect everything from every project and you bring it to the next one. For this movie, I actually played all of the creatures again, so that was fun being able to play those. But for the witches, that was a lot of work bringing the witches to life and working with Sasha and Kristen M on how to bring those characters. And again, they couldn't see anything. They had prosthetics on and then no eyes, and really getting the movements down for their characters and how they walk and how they lead and how their head movements. And they put a lot of work into those creatures. And I think the witches are some of my favorite things that came out of this movie. That segment with them is really amazing.
I agree 100%. I have them in my notes because I thought I love the design of the mask and everything. I just think they look great. And I was really wondering, like, I really like the look of everything. Like, did you do like a lot of storyboarding or like artwork to like, this is how I want things to look?
We did a lot of storyboards, and Pinterest boards, and everything. And just like I feel so bad for everyone on the team, because I would be 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, I have this idea, and I just randomly text our costume designer Darcy or makeup. I'm like, what do you think about this? What do you think? Let's combine this. Like when we try to build the Brothers of Cayuse, we took the people from Mad Max, the new Mad Max.
Oh, War Boys.
The War Boys. And we're like, okay, well, I want to do like medieval War Boys, but I want to have jewelry and bones on them, and so just playing around with that. And I really love how the Inner Sanctum came together with the sacrifice and the witches. And again, it was so much fun putting those costumes together. Sometimes that's the most fun I've had, kind of creating characters and making them come to life.
Yeah. Kristen, were you at all like part of the editing process? I'm just wondering, like, did you see when you saw the finished movie, was it completely finished, or did you see like bits of it as it was being put together?
I wasn't really a part of the editing process too much. I think I came over a few times, and Matt and Jeremy would show me, what they had edited so far and kind of the sequence, like kind of part 1, part 2, part 3 of the movie. And then I remember kind of playing around with the sequence and maybe moving, like, I think it was part 3 to part 2, and just like we realized, oh, this flows so much better. And so that I like really enjoyed that part, but then I never actually saw the full film in its entirety until we had a private showing last year with some friends and family and in a theater, and that was pretty special to see it like up close and on a big screen. So
yeah.
So
have you all seen it with an audience? Did it play? I know it's coming to select theaters, but did you do any festivals?
We actually didn't do any festivals. We had a private showing with just friends and family and the crew that put it together, and then now it's going to select theaters. So
yeah, I hope you're planning to go see it with people at some of these theaters.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a silly question. If you just be like, no, we don't go see it. So you'd mentioned already that it was like cold and stuff. So I remember watching the big sword fight on the ice, and I was like, I'm pretty sure they're really on ice here. It's not, it's not foam ice. So
it wasn't green screen.
It was pretty. It's a great scene.
Yeah.
What was it like, putting that together and filming it? It's also shot really well with the drone and everything.
Putting that together, we knew we had early on that we wanted to go out to, it's Abraham Lake in Alberta, and it's a very cold spot, and we needed to go there when nobody else would be there, which is the coldest time of the year. So there's a certain time where there's a lot of tourists that go, and then there's a time that it's so cold that nobody's there. That's when we went, and it was probably the coldest experience I've ever had in my life. I looked over at Jeremy multiple times and Kristen, and they had icicles everywhere on the eyebrows, eyelashes. Like you'd breathe and it would instantly turn to ice and drop to the ground. And we were filming in cold circumstances before that, but that really pushed us to the limit. And I think we were worried early on if we were going to get this scene, because we lost. I thought I was going to lose everybody. Like they're just going to quit. And Jeremy and Kristen luckily stuck through it. We had someone that was supposed to do the choreography for the Barbarian. After he got his lines down, he just breathed and his whole face just turned white. And he's just like, I'm done.
Oh.
And he's like, I'm out. He's like,
Just getting just frostbite right in front of us.
I just
It was
like,
"Whoa."
I can't do it. And so I had 30 minutes to learn the choreography for that fight, and I actually put on the Barbarian suit, which was in hindsight my favorite thing, because once we finished filming the fight scene together, we just looked and we're like, mountains all around us. The sun came out and the wind stopped. I was like, this is probably the most beautiful experience I've ever had, be able to make a movie with my friends. Because like I said, we all grew up like swinging a sword around, dreaming about being in a movie like this, and then all of a sudden here we are doing this really cool thing. So
Yeah, it felt like our chance to finally beat Conan the Barbarian, right?
so
Yeah, no, it really works. I love watching at home, but I imagine for people to see it in the theater, it's going to look amazing on the big screen and with the audio all surrounding you.
yeah.
So I'm a big fan of decapitations here. At the and my,
Got one of those in there.
and my my film festival, Severed Limbs. So it worked all around for me. So
Love it.
Nice.
who does like the gore in your movie?
So we brought the butcher shop on, and Carlos runs the butcher shop, and we started having conversations with them early on. Like you said, we had a lot of gags that we wanted to do, and the thing that we wanted to separate ourselves with this movie is like, you have movies like Lord of the Rings, and they don't show the gore. It's just very off screen or cutaways. We wanted to lean into it. We wanted to shoot it in a way that it was like a beautiful painting, like Renaissance. And so that's what I pitched them. I'm like, I want to do Renaissance paintings with bloody gore. Let's like, I want it to be like magical, like almost romantic. And I really was impressed between makeup, costume design, Carlos and the butcher shop, and then Brent or DP, just really combining those elements together. We have a really great bloody eagle. We have a great decapitation, and those shots are just, for me, they're filmed so majestically that they really shine. Like I'm just so proud of like all those elements, how they came together.
Yeah, and I mentioned to Chris before you guys popped on. This is very weird. I was watching your movie, and Carlos, who I didn't know beforehand, messaged me on Facebook about he wanted to come on the show, and he's like, "I just did effects on 2 movies, and one of them was A Knight's War," and I was like, "I'm literally watching this movie right now."
I love it.
It's so
I love
weird.
it.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Yeah, you need to get Carlos on. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's gonna come on soon. So yeah, it was a really weird coincidence, and it worked. I was like, wow, this is so strange. So you had worked with them before on previous stuff?
I worked with Carlos on something. I actually met Carlos a lot on doing Psycho Goreman conventions, and then he was there, and we started connecting and learning about what he's doing. He started showing me his work, and yeah.
So I have a real quick. I don't know if you guys want to talk about this, Matt and Jeremy, but real quick, is there a reason why you guys are not in Violent Nature?
Oh man.
Wait, which version? Because we were in one of them.
In Violent Nature, so my friend Chris is the director of that, and so Chris did makeup for Psycho Goreman, and he asked me to come out to be the monster for that movie. I don't know exactly. That movie got shot 3 times, and I'm so proud of Chris for finishing it. The first time through, I had a crazy allergic reaction to something. Still don't know what it was, but like I ended up in the hospital, and I was just like, so they had to find a replacement. And then when they went back to refilm it, obviously they didn't know what went wrong with me and didn't want to risk it again. So that's kind of like stepping away, but they got it done. They did a great job. Super proud of them. So.
Yeah, I've had a bunch of the people on. I was just curious. I brought it up to them, but it was never completely.
They didn't answer it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was the sheriff in the first time it was filmed.
Yeah. So just start creating, not even just the look and everything, but creating like the mythology. Is any of it like based on anything, or is it just like just completely something you guys created?
No, it's based on. There's a lot of inspirations in there. I don't know if you're familiar with the Book of Enoch. So and then like there's more Jewish text talking about Lilith, and so the idea is that Lilith was actually the first woman. Adam and Eve. Eve came after Lilith, so it was Lilith and Adam. Lilith left the garden and decided to hang out with some demons and have some like offspring. And when she came back, Adam got a new wife, Eve, and like so we started like diving into like Nephilim and the Elohim and all that kind of stuff. Like, oh, this is really cool stuff. What if we loosely base it off that and create a whole universe? And Lilith was kind of our segue, or I guess I call her, she's our anchor being to this world. And kind of from there, it just kept on growing. And the Bible that we built for this movie is actually way bigger than the script, because like each character needs to have a backstory. We need to understand where they came from, where they're going, and what created them. And so we ended up building like this huge, almost like Dungeons and Dragon game from this that hopefully we get to keep exploring.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Is this a world you would like to explore, more of?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Jeremy and I, we sat down and right away wrote, we have 2 more movies. This was like the easiest movie. This is the biggest, this is a very hard undertaking, but it was the easiest entry point into the story of Bodhi and Avalon. And so there's definitely more that we want to do with their characters, and more that I'm hoping we have a chance to play around with.
Yeah. And Kristen, are you on board to do more with the character?
Totally. Yeah. I hope this is not the end of Avalon. Yeah.
Yeah. And so my 2 co-hosts on the show, Troy and Annabelle, they're also old D&D players. So I know this is going to be right up their alley. So we'll be talking about it more on the show.
Love it.
Amazing.
Yeah. And the armor, not only is it heavy, does it protect you from the cold? Because I just assume like it's metal, so it's maybe
Not from the cold. It was good for stunts, but not for the cold. On the cold days, you would just feel that chilling metal just coming right through your gear. It's kind of like if you're wearing steel toes in the winter, your toes get really cold. It was the same effect overall, the whole body.
Your whole body instead. Yeah. So do not recommend armor.
No, and then you can't even touch the metal sometimes with your bare skin. Otherwise, it gets stuck to it, right? And you get the ripping of skin. So.
Yeah, I'm in Massachusetts, so I get cold here, but then I have a lot of friends in Canada, and then I see them talk about being like negative, 18, and I'm like, oh, I guess it's all relative. It's probably pretty warm actually where I am compared to
No, filming this movie, the hairs on your body freeze. It's a crazy feeling. It's so cold, and the fact that Kristen and Jeremy were able to fight through it is just an amazing. You couldn't find people to do what they did. It's very impressive.
So, there's mostly practical effects in the movie, like the locations, everyone's got cool stuff on, obviously there's some visual effects. So what was the editing process like? How long did that take just to, put the whole movie together?
Again, we did the whole movie from shooting and editing in a year. So we would, as we're building the sets, shooting, we would also edit it and kind of make sure we're not missing anything.
Oh, you do it like while you were doing it?
We do it all together. And so that really helped, because we got to, a lot of people get to the edit and then they're like, should have stopped doing that, or shouldn't have done that, or that wasn't working, but it's too late. Whereas the reason that we edit as we shoot, it's really so that we can just get the feedback loop so we can improve. It's like, okay, this shot's working really well. Maybe something's wrong with the lens or audio or whatever, so that we could just make those micro adjustments. And then at the end of the movie, we feel like we're in such a sync. We're like, wow, we are such a well-oiled machine, and then it's done. It's just like, crap, I want to just keep going. So yeah, all in all, it took us a year to do.
All right. Kristen, had you worked on a project that was filmed that way before, where it's being filmed and edited, at the same time?
Not really. I mean, well, Death Valley, did you do the same thing with Death Valley, or not as much?
Yeah, Death Valley is what we did.
Yeah. So I guess, Death Valley. But I think I was just...
You weren't as big a character?
Yeah, and I mean, I think this time too, I was... Matt and Jeremy allowed me to come along come by to see the edit here and there. So I felt like a little bit more a part of that as well, which was nice to see the behind the scenes kind of thing.
Yeah. Where could people go to see what select theaters A Night's War is going to be playing?
Oh, I don't even know what select theaters it's in.
All right. So, where can Matt find out? Where
So it is going to be on iTunes or Apple TV. It's going to be part of Prime. You can rent it there. It's going to be on any VOD service. So which theaters it's playing in, I wish I knew. I need to get that figured out. So, but it will be in select theaters.
yeah, that's congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And will there ever be a physical release?
Yes, there will be a physical release. There is a Blu-ray. There is an amazing behind-the-scenes doc that's on it. I think it's like 30 minutes long, and it's really cool. It gives you a little sneak peek to like the hell that Kristen and Jeremy went through to make this movie. So,
well, I'm glad that's been captured for to be immortalized. And where can people follow you, Matt and Jeremy?
Instagram, just our names.
just our names. So.
No, Matt and Jeremy, just look that up.
Matt and Jeremy.
They have a shared account.
And Kristen, where can people follow you?
Yeah, same with me. I'm just on Instagram. My Instagram name is Kristen Kaster. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, with a K.
Yeah, with a K. Yeah, exactly.
All right. All right, it was really cool, and I really love the movie. Again, not just because you guys are here. I was like, when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, I think there's something I'm gonna like, but sometimes trailers are cool, maybe the movie isn't. But
Right.
this was definitely something I really liked. Though I was in it the whole way. It's definitely a movie for me, and I'll for whatever it's worth, I'll tell people to see it.
Thank you, Neil.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Neil.
thanks, guys.
Really appreciate it.
Take care.